So we're back with another episode, and on today's episode, we're gonna talk about sexual abuse and the differences between sexual harassment and sexual assault. So before we get into it, we just want you to know that our aim is to know these two differences because there's lots of you who are still confused whether it's sexual assault or sexual harassment or it's considered as both. So let's get started. So, starting off by the definition of sexual abuse. So, sexual abuse is a sexual behavior or a sexual act forced upon a woman, man, or child without their consent. So, in this case, consent is very important. Know that everything will not go right without consent. So, remember, guys, consent is very important. Without consent, you might be charged. And you must know that sexual abuse includes men, women, and children, and the abuser can also be men, women, and children. And sexual abuse is also an act of violence which the attacker uses against someone they think are weaker than them. So if you feel that you have a much more power or dominant over that person, possibility for you to get raped is less because usually they would target someone who is weaker than them or which they think is weaker than them, so that would be an easy target for them. Okay, so before moving on to the next one, into the topic of sexual assault and sexual harassment, I would like to address first on the definition of sexual assault. So, sexual assault is a term including all sexual offenses and any action or statement with a sexual nature and done without consent from both sides. So, again, consent is a very important matter, especially in this kind of situation. So, consent is, if you don't know what consent is quite similar to permission. So even if you want to do anything, you will have to have a permission from that particular someone. Let's say you want to use your friend's book, you will have to have her consent. You will need to have her consent to use her book, just the same as human being. So if you want to do something that has got to do with that particular someone, you need to have her consent. As easy as that. You just need to, just go back and just like take it as something that you couldn't like play around with. Do you actually know that if you do something without someone consent, you could actually get caught or like be fined or even get jailed? So make sure you always ask for consent before doing anything. So next, I'm going to talk about six types of sexual assault, which is rape, sodomy, attempted rape, gang rape, serial rape, and incest. Starting off with rape, and we'll go through this one by one and explain to you what are the differences. And rape is actually an insertion of a bodily organ or an object into organ of a woman without her consent. So I know that some of you might wonder why it only includes women in this case, because it still considers as putting something inside a sex organ. So I mean, rape still includes men. However, what I was trying to say is that I know that man has been raped too. Just that in this matter, since we are breaking down to a very specific type of sexual assault, so in that case, the man comes into this part, which is sodomy. So sodomy is an insertion of a bodily organ or an object into a person's anus or mouth without their consent. So this does not only limit it to men, but however, it does limit it to women too. So sorry, it does include women too. So these include both sexual genders, and it could be anyone. The third one is attempted rape. So attempted rape is attempted insertion of a bodily organ or an object into the sex organ of a woman without her consent. So it didn't matter even if the rapist didn't even get to touch you yet, but it still does count as an attempted rape if they have the intention to rape you. So this is if you have enough evidence, they could be, they could get caught for this too. So next, gang rape. So gang rape is a rape carried out by more than one attacker. Of course, this case has been rising a lot in Malaysia, and as well as serial rape, serial rape is a repeated incidence of rape carried out by the same attacker over an extended period of time. And lastly, sexual abuse or assault at the hands of a family member, which is incest. And next, before I get into sexual harassment, I would like to address the differences between sexual harassment and sexual assault. So the differences of sexual harassment and sexual assault is that sexual harassment is the broad term, which it includes many types of unwelcome verbal and physical sexual attention. The differences is that sexual harassment sometimes isn't a criminal act, but sexual assault is in fact a criminal act. And sexual assault only includes physical actions, but sexual harassment is limited. Oh no, it's not limited, sorry. Sexual harassment includes both verbal and physical attack of a rapist. And usually these things happen, or it does consider as a sexual harassment or sexual assault when that person has already shown that to the harasser that they are not interested for several times, but the harasser continued to do so. So this is where the thing started. Okay, so since we've talked about several several types of sexual assault that includes physical assault, so now I'm going to talk about verbal assault by some by the assaulters, or by the not the assaulters, by the potential rapist. So they could usually do a sexual jokes. They could degrade or humiliate, giving remarks relating to a person's sex or sexuality, including their sexual orientation. Know that sexual jokes are not funny in any kind of way, and you should know it's rude and it's not something you should even brought up. And another example that I could give you is that when that particular party publishes a picture or a video of someone focusing on their sexuality for the purpose of humiliating or degrading the person without their consent. It's the same concept, just that there's no any physical contact happen here. So that's just show that the sexual harassment includes verbal acts too, and not limited to physical contact only. So I hope all of you are refreshed with this new information, and I hope you could take down and process all this information that I just gave you, and let's just stay aware and be aware of our surroundings and take care of yourself. Thank you. Bye.